तिमीलाई म भुल्न सक्दिन जहाँ जाऊँ तिम्रो याद आइरहन्छ यो खोला यो नाला यो पहाड भन्ज्याङले मलाई बोलाइरहन्छ तिमीलाई म भुल्न सक्दिन जहाँ जाऊँ तिम्रो याद आइरहन्छ यो खोला यो नाला यो पहाड भन्ज्याङले मलाई बोलाइरहन्छ.
So we want to get you a little bit more curious today. We want you to ask some questions, and we want you to have a design for a memorial. Okay, so hopefully you can leave that design with me today, and then we can display it on the pit. Another goal for today is for you guys to think about your roots. Okay, who can explain what it means, your roots? Not the roots of your hair. What are your roots? Raj? Your ancestors? What else? What else are your roots? Okay, if you're a tree, what are your roots? You're gonna be down there. I see Siddhartha like he wants to get something out, but he can't get it out yet. What are your roots, Siddhartha? Your identity, who you are, who you think you are. Okay. So for me, my roots are my ancestors. It's who I am. It's everything that came before me. The history that I know about myself, my family, my ancestors, and the history that I don't know. Okay. But when we don't have very strong roots, when we don't know about our ancestors, when we don't know about even our parents or our grandparents, it's very difficult to grow. So if our community is like a tree and we don't know our roots, we don't know where we came from, it's very difficult for us to grow in a very healthy way. And so a lot of the adults in this room are concerned about that too. We want to make sure that you guys understand some of your roots. Even if you're not Nepali, even if your family weren't Gurkha members, this is still, as people who are living in Hong Kong, we're all Hong Kong people, everything we'll see today is actually in some way part of our own roots. So the stronger we make these roots, the better that we're able to grow. I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes. We've got a worksheet. And I just want to know, has anyone in your family ever been a Gurkha? Might have been an uncle, might have been a grandfather, great-grandfather, father. And then I've got some questions. Okay, and so I want you to put your answers in the guess column. Your guesses might be right. You might actually know some of these. In what year did the Gurkhas start serving the British military? What ethnic groups are most Gurkhas from? When did the Gurkhas first come to Hong Kong? What is the average height of a Gurkha soldier? That was very interesting when I found that out. What is the motto of the Gurkhas? What is their traditional weapon called? How many Gurkhas served in World War I and World War II combined together? And is there a Gurkha memorial in Hong Kong? I have 4 more of these. Who else needs one? hope you don't mind me putting some of your photos up. There are sometimes things that you do and you say it's an accident and really your subconscious mind doing it. For those of you guys who are first time with me, when you hear that clap, it means just let's clap and let's get going. Okay, I want to hear some of your guesses. When did the Gurkhas start fighting for the British? Raj, not Raj. Siddharth, I want to hear your guess. 1980. The Gurkhas started fighting for the British. Okay, different guess for that one. Five. 1815. Okay. Any other guesses? Anish, what did you guess? I heard 1700. Okay. Next one. What's the next one? Okay, what groups from Nepal do the Gurkhas tend to come from? I hear Guru, Khetri, Rai, Nimbu. Okay, Magar, we'll take a look at that. What's the average height of a Gurkha soldier?
5.5 to 5.7.
5.5 to 5.7. I'm 5'7" myself. Okay, so somewhere about my height. Any other guesses? 5'2". Okay. 6 feet maybe? 6 feet. Is there a Gurkha memorial in Hong Kong? Yes! Where is it? Everybody's like, yes, but I don't know where it is. Okay.
It's only cemetery, it's not a memorial.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you guys the answer to that one now. There is no Gurkha memorial in Hong Kong. For Malaysia, I've seen several memorials or museums in the UK. Hong Kong does not have a memorial. So this is one of the reasons to have this workshop, is just to get some ideas from young people about different ways to be able to remember this history, okay? So close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes. Close your eyes for about 10 seconds, okay? You guys don't know this, but when we organized this workshop, we talked to all of your parents. And this year and next year, your next birthday, Aaron, close your eyes. Your parents agreed they are not going to celebrate your birthday. Okay, so imagine next year, there's no cake. Okay, open your eyes. Raise your hand if you feel good about that. Okay. We all like to be remembered, right? We all like to be celebrated in some way. We want somebody to say, I know it's shocking, but I'm happy that you're alive. I'm happy that you existed. Okay, so keep that in mind. When we don't have a memorial for something, it's almost like saying you didn't really exist. You didn't really happen. And then it becomes very easy to forget about that thing. The UK used to be a lot bigger. And all of these lands that you see in pink, at some point, were controlled by the UK. Okay? At the height of the British Empire, all of this was there. I mean, such a huge part of the world. In fact, it was said at that time that the sun never set on the British Empire. At some part of the world, it was always daytime for the British Empire. It was huge. Except that the British didn't manage to colonize one place. Okay? They tried really hard, but it didn't work. So yeah, Nepal is right about here. So this is the British Empire, the UK in 1815. All these parts that are black, at that point were part of the UK. Okay, not as much. Go back. Not as much as we have here. A little bit smaller in 1815. Okay, but in 1815, the British tried to invade the Gurkha kingdom in southern Nepal. Okay, you guys know what happened?
Wow.
They ran into these guys. Okay, they ran into these guys, and the British were heavily defeated. Okay, they were called the part of the Gurkha kingdom, they defeated them very, very badly. And so in 1815, the British Empire made what's called a treaty with the person who was the king of this part of Nepal at the time. And part of this treaty, this agreement that they made to stop fighting was that the British would be able to bring in soldiers and have them become part of their armies around the world. Okay, so in 1815 is when we start seeing Nepali soldiers start to work for the British military. These were some of the guys. One of the things I want you to think about today is not just the Gurkha men. Okay, so we can remember the Gurkha men, we can make a memorial about the Gurkha men, but you should also be thinking about the Gurkha women and the Gurkha children. Mr. Singh told me a great story that I shared with some of you guys about him getting married and not seeing his wife. How long did it take you to send the letter to Nepal?
Oh, it's 3.5 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years away from Nepal, right? And if you send...
Yeah, there's no one to read.
Okay. So you could send a letter to Nepal, it would take 6 months, and then there was no one who could read it. Okay. So part of what made the men strong is having strong women and having families back home who are also affected by them being gone. This is the first Nepali woman now to become a member of the British military. So I don't think she's an official Gurkha, but they call her a Gurkha anyways, for being a Nepali who's joined the British military. And this is, what year is this? 44th Gurkhas, soldiers, wives, and children. I believe this picture is almost 100 years old now. It's hanging over there. You can look at it later. Okay, so these women would not see their husbands for a long time. They were raising the children and also struggling back home at the time that the men were gone. These here are sons of Gurkha soldiers in a Nepali village. Okay, we have Mr. Ratna will be here. He called me and said he'll be a little bit late. So we'll get to hear from somebody, but maybe we can also hear from Mr. Thompson. When you start to make memorials, you want to think about some of the important images. Okay, so sometimes you have a logo or something that's called an insignia. And so you can even see his tie back there. He's got a pin. Okay, and so we'll start to see these images anywhere where we kind of find Gurkhas. It could be embroidered onto a piece of fabric. It could be printed. And usually it features the kukuri. Okay, this long knife. Do you guys know how this knife is used? How? Do you stab somebody with it? No, you slash. You slash. Okay, very deadly knife. I would not want to come across this knife. When we think about the Gurkha men too, we don't just have to think about them as soldiers. Okay, within the Gurkha regiments, they were also engineers. They work on something called logistics. Being able to move all the supplies that they needed to go around. You guys know who this person is right here? This is the Tokyo Olympics in 1964. There's this man here. Half of his face is covered up. You guys know who he is?
No.
Turn to the back.
That's why I can see.
Okay, so he was, and there's some more pictures of him up here. Okay, Mr. Nansing was a champion boxer, and he became part of the first Nepali team to go to the Olympics, and they went as a boxing team. You want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, we were in 1964, the first Asia held in actually Olympics game. Before it was used to in just only the America and Europe only. So this is the first time Nepal took part. Then coincided in Asia held the Olympics game 1964, which is 18th Olympic summer game. Thank you.
Okay. So they had a British trainer in Hong Kong who helped him to become boxers. And if you come around and look at this later, he won fights in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan. And then raise your hand if you like to play football. Okay. And as it turns out, Gurkhas were also very strong football players. Okay, so there's this strong tradition of strength, athleticism, football. I also want you to think about, when we think about a memorial, sometimes we only think about the men. So we got to make sure we think about the women, we think about the children. But sometimes we only think about the heroes, okay? And how we love them because they're heroes. But I want you to think about another side of things too. I found this great article in The Independent from the UK. It's a newspaper. And it told us that altogether, about 450,280 soldiers served between World War I and World War II. Okay? About 450,000 Nepalese Gurkha soldiers in World War I and World War II. Do you guys know what casualties means? Casualties in war. A casualty of war. Means the people who were shot or injured or died. Okay? So altogether, between World War I and World War II, there was 52,000 casualties for Gurkha soldiers. We're very lucky that here's World War I. You guys see these names? And keep flipping. You see all these names? These are all the Gurkhas who died just in World War I. Okay. And what's great about this book is it tells you exactly where they're from. It tells you who the parents were. It tells you if they were married or had children. One of the horrible things about war is that sometimes it can really tear apart communities. So we remember that most of these Gurkhas are coming from one region of Nepal. They're coming from, it's mostly the Rai, Limbu, Tapa, and Gurung. Okay, there's other groups too, but those are the four major ones. And so when a community is losing a lot of its men, it has a strong effect on that community. When a community loses its men, what do you guys think happens to the next generation of men? Okay, less what? Less men, maybe, okay? I grew up without my father. From the time that I was 7 on, I didn't have my father in my life. It's very difficult. Very difficult when you don't have somebody to be your role model. And then all these people vanish from their village. Okay, all these men. Second World War. Okay, all these people who died. It's not the ones who were injured. Those were also casualties. So many were, thousands were injured, maybe returned back to their village, couldn't do any work, maybe had a hard time trying to help out the family. Those are great books to look at. 26 have been awarded what's called the Victoria Cross. There's, I think, a picture of it over here. It's gone. Somebody took it down. Okay. Yeah, right over there. So this is one of the most prestigious awards. It's turned around. That the British government can give out. Okay, and they don't give out a lot of these, but they've given 26 to Gurkhas. This specific Victoria Cross belonged to a rifleman whose surname was Poon, and he received this for great bravery. I actually have the story of what he did to receive it. But the guy who received this very prestigious medal, I'll read you what happened to him when he returned to Nepal after he retired. Rifleman Poon returned to a tiny Nepalese hill village and raised 6 children. He lived on an army pension that was a fraction of those of British servicemen. Your pension is when you retire from a government job, okay, you get older, you don't work for this government job anymore, you still collect some salary. They still have some money that they pay you. But what the British government was doing is that they weren't giving the same amount to the Gurkhas that they were given to the regular British soldiers. It was a fraction of it, much smaller. so he returned in a small cottage without running water or electricity until his health began to fail. Okay, those of you guys who are with me in Form 3, what kind of poverty would we call it if somebody doesn't have electricity, they don't have running water? Okay, so this memorial here, Bicol just wanted us to remember him. It's a bust. A bust is also a sculpture, but it only goes from the chest up. Okay, so that's a good way to remember people sometimes. Rahul designed a tattoo, which I'm considering putting on my body. Maybe not. It's more important. Okay, it's more of a hero. And this one was done by Nita. This would be a mural that would cover a whole wall, maybe in our school. Okay. This one might last for as long as the school lasts, maybe 7. This could last hundreds of years. Okay. The bust of Bicol, if you put it in a museum, could also last hundreds of years. This is a stamp, okay, that another student designed. So we could put this stamp on a letter, we could mail it away. Who would see this memorial? All the people where? Yeah, all around the world. People who receive a letter all around the world might see this. What's the scale of this? And is this a large-scale memorial or very small scale, like 2 centimeters? Okay. But also collectors, stamp collectors around the world could also see it. Okay. And this is the one I showed you before. The best designs that we get today, we're going to frame them and we're going to display them at the events on the 5th at the Gurkha cemetery. So this was designed by a student named Suleiman. He put the Gurkha symbol here. He gave it the name Fearless Fighter that you can't really see here. But I think he did something that he should have thought about more. Do you guys know what the motto of the Gurkhas is? No, the motto. The motto is the words. The knife is like the symbol, the thing that we look at. The motto is the word. So the motto is, it's better to die than to be a coward. Okay? It's better to die than to be a coward, which I think is a lovely motto. It's a very strong motto. But what happens when we put that on a plane? Okay. So, okay, you guys get it? Yeah. Okay. So sometimes I recommended to him that he change it because there's so many other great things that have been said about the Gurkhas, but he didn't want to do that. This is the Lincoln Memorial. Abraham Lincoln is one of the most famous presidents of the United States. Do you guys see the scale of this? It's enormous. It's huge. Okay, the people are this size. And it's so big because people in the country think that he was such an important person that his memorial should be very large. Okay, much larger than the Gurkha memorials we saw in London, which is just about 2.5 times the size of a person. It makes him seem like a bigger hero. This will probably be around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, it's got great longevity, very big longevity. And people from all around the world can see it. Anyone who goes to Washington, D.C., it's a very big city, a lot of tourists go there, will be able to see this memorial. So it's large scale, high visibility, and large longevity. This is the last example I want to show you to get you thinking about both the men and the women. So this is a town, a fisherman's town in the UK, and they decided to make a memorial for all of the fishermen in the village who had died. They had about 10,000 fishermen die, going out to catch the fish, bring them back, and sell them. And so they put this up in 1923. From 1623 to 1923, about 10,000 fishermen died. And so they wrote on it, "They that go down to the sea in ships." Okay, the ones who went down in their ships. It's a memorial for them. But they also made a memorial to go along with it of the woman with her children, because they are also just as important a part of the history as the man who went down with the ship. Think about everything that the woman had to do afterwards when the man was gone. Take care of the family, find a way to make money, raise the children by herself. Okay, so this is something that you can also consider when you're making a Gurkha memorial. It can also be about the women. It can also be about the children. As you guys are working, I'm going to leave these up. So I think it's really important for you guys not to use the same words all the time. We can say the Gurkhas and their wives and their children were brave, strong, humble, loyal. Okay? I think most of you guys know these words. But I've given you some words underneath that mean the same thing, okay, or similar. So if you have your mobiles, you can look them up if you want to in an online dictionary. I will leave this up as you guys are working. But I want to go back to something. Okay, this one. So this is my classroom memorial, the person that made the stamp. Sometimes words are very important in a memorial. So they put scholarship, unity, love, respect, peace, because these are words that we talk about in our class all the time. So we'll have these to look at. Okay? But before I give you guys all these supplies and get you started, we do have a couple guests. And I think it's really important that we hear from them that we need to be able to ask them, how do you want to be remembered? What is it that you want to pass on to the future generations? Okay? And so I think we need to take the words that they give us, and as we start to draw and design something, really think about them very carefully. So I'd like to invite them all to the front. Can we invite our Gurkha guests up?
And I am also a parent member of the Secondary School, but of course, maybe unfortunately from my school, I have my teacher here, Mr. Lucas Dahal here, and some students were willing to come here, but they did not know exact location, then they are confusing and they didn't come, but they will joining us next time. So now, as I shared and talked with Mr. Amod and all this organizing team, and as a Gurkha representative, I will introduce myself and my short story about my life before joining the army and during the army and after retired. So I just write some things here written and just try to read it out in front of you. And after I finish my introduction and this reading out of my story, I will show you a very short video, YouTube video, which you can also search in the YouTube and you can watch it. It's very short, 2 to 3 minutes of time, regarding what Gurkhas have contributed and done and their duties was in Hong Kong. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's give them another round of applause. From your teachers, because the goal is, here's one finished one, but it's to collect them and display them on the 5th of April. I want to give you a couple more quick ideas. There's so many ways to remember people. An airplane, a statue, an iPhone cover that might have Mr. Tapa here. Maybe it says Gurkha underneath. Okay? It could be a Hong Kong octopus card. That's a memorial that says, has the Gurkha logo. Maybe has the Gurkha motto. Or same thing. Maybe has a photo of a former Hong Kong Gurkha on it. It could be a T-shirt. Okay, so you can really, a million different ways to remember. It doesn't have to be a statue or a stamp.
तिमीलाई म भुल्न सक्दिन जहाँ जाऊँ तिम्रो याद आइरहन्छ यो खोला यो नाला यो पहाड भन्ज्याङले मलाई बोलाइरहन्छ सक्दिन जहाँ जाऊँ तिम्रो याद आइरहन्छ यो खोला यो नाला यो पहाड भन्ज्याङले मलाई बोलाइरहन्छ मेरो नेपाल मेरो नेपाल मेरो नेपाल मेरो देश मलाई लाग्छ प्यारो मेरो देश मलाई लाग्छ प्यारो हरियाली यहाँ आँगनैभरि लाली गुराँस चाँप चमेली फुल्छ थरी थरी डाँडा काँडा हरियाली यहाँ आँगनैभरि लाली गुराँस चाँप चमेली फुल्छ थरी थरी खोला नाला झरनाको मिठो सुसेनी आइरहन्छ यो मनमा झलझली आइरहन्छ यो मनमा झलझली मेरो नेपाल मेरो नेपाल मेरो नेपाल मेरो देश मलाई लाग्छ प्यारो प्यारो सगरमाथा शिर बनी यहाँ उभिएको छ करोडौं मुटुमा छ तिमी सजिएको छ सगरमाथा शिर बनी यहाँ उभिएको छ करोडौं मुटुमा छ तिमी सजिएको छ वीर महात्मा जन्मिएको देश मलाई प्यारो प्यारो लाग्छ आफ्नै स्वदेश मलाई प्यारो लाग्छ आफ्नै स्वदेश मेरो नेपाल मेरो नेपाल मेरो
Mr.
Gurkha officer Saran Subai.
Right. Say good afternoon to you. My name is Limbu Saran Kumar. First name is Saran, and the surname is Limbu. Now, I have been in the British Army, I think, quite long enough. Joined British Army prematurely at the age of 14. And until reaching the age of 18, I was still training in a boy called the boy soldiers. And after reaching the age of 18, I became a real soldier. Now, I have served in the British Army, including my boy service, total year 33 years. Okay, 33 years, and I retired at the rank of major. Now, throughout my career in the British Army, I served from the east, extreme east, Fiji to extreme west, Seattle, America, down to in Central America, and down to all the way down to extreme South Atlantic Falklands Island. Now, in the Falklands Island, I fought the Battle of Falklands against the Argentinians in 1982.
About the t-shirt, why are you? I mean, just now, Enza asked me, can we wear this t-shirt outside? Yes, you can. Okay. A few weeks ago, this lady asked me, why is this crown upside down? I said, because this means that I'm not happy, right? And then she read the t-shirt thing, and she asked me, like, why do you think you can't keep calm as an ethnic minority? Because I don't want to be just tagged as ethnic minority. Okay, but then they tag us as ethnic minority, first thing. Second thing is that how they look at ethnic minority is only based on the newspaper. Okay, that means all is poor, less, kind of like a very low socio-economic status. But then yes, but apart from that, we do have our own talent to talk about. So we need to talk about that. This is the positive side of it. When you come out, do talk about this one. Spread the story. Okay?